Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel again, and I've got a very special guest. As usual, special guest. Everybody's special. We're all special in our own rights, right?
Mhm.
I've got Nisi here with me. Yeah. So this is a very interesting one because most of the people that have been coming on this channel are telling you about agile and the fact that you don't have to learn coding, but this is coming from a different perspective. So Nisi is a data scientist, and well, I don't really know much about data scientists, but because I don't code myself, so but we work with them in agile teams or persistent teams, and let me not talk too much. I'm talking too much already. All right, so Nisi, do you want to introduce yourself
Oh
for us?
yeah, hi everybody. My name is Nisi. There's not too much about me to be honest. I have a coding background. I did a bachelor's degree in computer science. I also have a coding background in Python, in Java. I've done lots of things ranging from business analytics to machine learning to building infrastructure, building data infrastructure, data orchestration, all of that stuff. So I do it all basically. I'm sort of what you would like to refer to as a digital nomad, which means most of the work I've done is like remote work from various countries. I've worked for UK based companies. I currently work for a UK based company actually, and I also work for a US based company. So yeah, that's pretty
Wow,
much what I do at the moment.
thank you. Just for an FYI for everyone watching, Nisi is based in Canada, so that's why he says he
Exactly.
works for international companies. So he's enjoying himself rather staying at home and working for
Yes,
country
it's very
country.
flexible, very flexible. It's what you want, right? You want to be able to do your housework, right? You want to be able to work from home, so you have that flexibility of doing all that stuff on the side. That even helps you to sort of have
Right.
side projects, do some freelancing and stuff.
Mm. So I mean, I'm going straight into it. Can I live in Nigeria and work for UK companies too?
Yeah, definitely. So you can live in Nigeria or Africa in general and work for a company in Europe. And why that's really common is that the time zones are a bit aligned. Usually it's like a maximum of like +2 or +3. If it's like West Africa, relating that to Western Europe. So it's really easy to
Yeah.
maintain a good sort of work schedule working from Nigeria. And as well, I think the COVID boom really helped with like getting workers from West Africa. Just because it was a bit harder to recruit within Europe, so they had to look outside. I
Yeah.
know a lot of that has slowed down a bit now, but I can say for sure that people are still getting roles from Nigeria and from West Africa and Europe.
Right. Right. Thank you for that. So well, let's just track back a bit. So with your intro, it's more. I mean, you're very sciencey. Everything. Data engineering, um, data scientists. You did a little bit of business analysis, right, or
Yeah.
analytics. Um, so, what was the motivation behind all of this? Is this what you've wanted to do right from time?
So for me, my journey in data science, I would say, started probably 7 years ago, and it was during my degree. I so working with data is something that's very fascinating, I must say. So in during my degree, I worked with like data structures and all that, because with computers, obviously the raw material is data. So I was just used to not the science behind data. It was more about like the structures that process data and feed it to computers. That's what I was used to. But then I started
Yeah.
seeing how valuable data could be. And that was when I started to getting interested in using data from a business context, because I could see businesses use small data to do things as simple as predicting demand just on a low scale, like maybe using Excel and all of these things. So I became really intrigued by how they were using data, and I began to look into data science. There was not as much a buzz of data science as there is now, but I could definitely find some people who were willing to like teach me about data science. I found a couple of people online. I think that was YouTube at the time, and I just started getting interested in this thing. So at that time, it was everyone's using Jupyter notebooks, just putting in data, training machine learning models. There was a lot of craze around it. Not many people knew what they were doing, but they were just like playing around with the data. So I think what drew me was just the visualizations and stuff. I could plot basic visuals, just the bar chart and things I was used to in mathematics from my undergraduate degree. So it
Right.
was just the whole fascination with data that I began to build at that time. So that led me to my first role as a data analyst intern for Chaka Technologies. So Chaka is like a fintech. You might have heard of it, a fintech startup in Nigeria. So what I started doing was
Right.
just taking data related to trading, so customer data, and just building
Okay.
basic visuals and doing some business analytics, just to tell things as simple as how many fundings did we have this week, or how many people traded, what products were they trading, all of that stuff. So that's basic business analytics, very basic stuff. But you can see that even that simple level of analytics can be useful from a decision making perspective and just for making basic growth decisions.
Oh, that's a lot. So, uh, in Nigeria, well, let's not really dive into Nigeria, but when you moved to Canada from Nigeria, what challenges did you face? Because a lot of people, have this misconception where things are different. It's a different economy, it's a different background, it's a different work ethic, you know, or they're gonna pick their citizens before they pick me for a role. So, what kind of challenges did you face? Did you have to learn more? Did you have to read more? Or the skills, the knowledge you had in Nigeria was enough for you to land the role when you got to Canada?
Yeah, so I would be lying if I said there weren't challenges, but I must say
Mm,
it's really about understanding the landscape. And this is something that applies with moving to any new country, right? You want to understand how the systems work, and that's no different for the employment or job market. So sometimes you have, many times I would say, you even have the requisite skills. You shouldn't feel like
mhm.
you're under skilled at all. You have the skills as long as
Okay.
you've done that job in Nigeria. You've worked for a company who's actually doing the work in the industry, so you shouldn't feel like you don't have the skills. But I would say just try to understand the landscape in terms of how to structure your CV, how to sort of present yourself and package yourself is really important when you're trying to land a role in Canada. So I've seen people with lots of skills who have CVs that just don't showcase those skills. So something valuable I would say I learned was tailoring your CV to fit the job description. That sounds simple, right? Everyone just thinks, okay,
Mm,
well, I want to apply for a data scientist role. I
mm,
have a data scientist CV, I'll just apply. And you'll see why people get, and it's no wonder why people get all these rejections, because sometimes you look more into more detail and you see that they are missing the skills that were advertised on the job description, job posting. So you have to ensure that your skills match. So if it's something transferable like cloud technology, so say you work with AWS and this job requires Azure,
okay.
to be honest, you can't put Azure on your CV just because the skills are really transferable. If you're really proficient in AWS, that's you would have no issues working on an Azure cloud platform. It's basically the
That's
same
true.
thing with a couple of nuances here and there. So you just need to know what are the things, and this is why interviews like this are really good, because discussions like this can help you know exactly what you should be looking at. And just do your own research, talk to people who've worked in the sector, people who've lived here before you moved, and just try to ensure that you're doing the right things. Sometimes it's just a small thing you're missing that can help optimize your CV or optimize your profile in general.
Uh, yeah, that's really, really important. Tailoring your CV to suit the job role, and not making your CV too long at the same time too.
Exactly.
You know, yeah. So, but um, now let's get it into agile, working with Scrum teams, or or trying to deliver in increments, right? Iterations and increments, like we say in agile. Um, does that frustrate you as a data scientist? Because there are times where most times the people do we tend to reject their work are people like you, people that have done coding and everything, and then we do the testing, and then there's either one enhancement or one defect or something that we always have to adjust. How does that? How do you see all that?
It is frustrating, I must say, for everyone that's technically
Yeah,
oriented. They feel like, oh, the project manager, the person handling the project, is not technical. And then why are they
yeah,
returning this work? Do they know the work I've put into this? I know there's definitely the temptation to feel that way, but I think many times they do this because it doesn't necessarily align perfectly with the business requirement, which you should be mindful of as as a developer or a technically oriented person. So it's really important for me, at least what I do, even though it's frustrating. I really just try to jump on a call or get on a meeting and just try to understand things really clearly. Sometimes I've had to resort to even showing this project manager the code and processes I followed to see if there's something that could be enhanced there. Usually, I mean, they point it out, but
yeah. Sorry to cut you short, but most times when you show us all that, we don't really understand the terms. So how do you then break it down for us to understand? Because sometimes we're thinking this guy is just telling me this thing so that I won't have questions to ask, and I won't be able to reject it. But is that done on purpose? Sometimes do you guys do that on purpose?
Well, I don't believe we do that on purpose, to be honest. Maybe some people do. It's possible people do that, to be honest. But yeah, with things like this, I think documentation is very important, and I think that's a call to document better. At least I would use examples from data engineering. It's really complex, I must
Mhm.
say, and oftentimes it's only a few data engineers on the team, because most companies can't even afford to have a full data engineering team. So it's really important that you document every process you're taking, and document that in a way that's accessible to everyone on the team, especially those who set the project targets and set the product roadmap. So at least that's what I do. So you have a sort of less technically oriented documentation. So sometimes I even
Right.
maintain
Yeah.
two, or a kind of meta sort of documentation. So I have a documentation that's called technical for another data engineer to follow the processes, and then we have some less technically oriented language, less technical jargon, which we attach to that, which helps the product manager.
Oh, okay. All right. So, because that, okay, well, you said something there that because you're not the data. What's data engineer? What's the difference between the data engineer and data science? Data engineering and data science. What's the difference?
So, how much time do we have? Because it's a really intricate
Shoot.
thing. It's quite
Shoot.
it's quite delicate, right? How you explain this, and these terminologies, I think people throw around really easily, which is a major problem
Yeah,
for some
I'm one
people.
of them.
So it's a problem for
Hmm.
people who are learning these skills because they don't know exactly what they should be learning, and what even fits their profile in terms of jobs. So with data science, it's really putting to use some type of model. Now, that could be machine learning, that could be just a statistical model to derive useful insights from data. That's a good summary of that. So usually with data science, you're focusing on the data modeling aspect of things and predictive analytics. Meanwhile, for data engineering, key term there being engineering. So with engineering, you're obviously planning processes and structuring something, right? So a key word in data engineering, like you'd hear people say, is data pipelining. That's building pipelines and infrastructure. So it's basically like data predictive analytics or data science sits at the top, which means that they're feeding predictive analytics to business people so they can make decisions. So I'll give a practical example. That's the best way to explain it. So I want to predict sales over the next quarter, and I have existing data on previous sales. So I want to predict future sales. That's a data science task. That's a predictive modeling task. And obviously you use data for the model. The model has to learn how to predict because it tries to derive some certain recurring trends and derive a pattern that's useful for predicting further sales, right? Now, how does data engineering come into this? So data engineering is what supports this whole framework because you just see the data in the database. It's like, how does that get to the model? How is that done in a sustainable way? So with data engineering, you're building the infrastructure and the pipelines that feed the data. First of all, that ingest the data from whatever source it's coming from. So for example, let's say your prediction of or forecasting of sales is influenced by a certain market variable. Let's say like data that's coming from the stock market, which is open source data. So this already involves two data sets. So you have one data set coming from a current or real-time source. You have data coming from, say, a database, the company's database where they store their sales information. Now, what data engineer does is structures that process of extracting the real-time data. Know that that's a process that's to be ongoing, right? So he organizes the process for extracting that data, extracting the data from the sales, putting that together, forming a sort of process around that and deploying it in a sustainable way such that it consistently feeds the model, and that data, the model then obviously predicts the sales. So data engineering is just building pipelines and infrastructure that support downstream analytics tasks. Hopefully that was not too long.
No. I understand. It's not too long. I understand. I was just trying to put it in line with when I have some discussions with some people at work. So now I understand what they mean by the pipeline and infrastructure of the organization of the every so basically uh, I could partially call myself a data scientist, partially just because I also pull in trends. I pull trends of predictability of a team's delivery over the past quarter, past year, and all that. So just to know what to tell our customers that look based on this is what our capacity is. This is what we can deliver in the next 3 months, in the next 6 months, thereabout. So I understand now. I understand the difference. But
Awesome.
I know you've just explained it in layman English, but when coding comes in, I know you have something else where
Definitely.
it's like X and Y, and you don't
Yeah.
understand all those things. Um, yeah, for all this fun that you have, because it's almost as if you guys are the ones having the fun, dealing with the coding and all these things.
Sometimes
Um,
it's not fun, but well,
you know,
it's not always fun, but yeah.
I know. So, what what's the salary range for Canada?
So,
Let's put it that way.
so generally, data engineers tend to be, well, I say rare, because to be honest, the training you require for data engineering is a bit intense. So not many people specialize in that. That being said, it also depends on where you live in Canada. In a place like
Okay.
Toronto, for example, is heavy on the business, sort of business side of things, financial industry and all that. So I would say data scientists and just core business analysts and specialists are more in demand. So that obviously influences the
Okay.
salary range. But generally, for data analysts, if you're entry level or junior, you should be expecting anywhere from 60 to 85,000 Canadian dollars a year would be the range.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's just starting out, right?
That's
That
quite
is not
typical.
senior roles, by the way. That's just starting out, entry level.
On entry
Yeah.
level. That's good. That's good money. That's good money. I mean, I don't know how to code, but is it going to be easy? Is it something I can learn even at this stage of my life where I know nothing about computer science, about coding?
Okay.
Can I learn it?
Yeah, I mean, so I like to tell people that even though there's variations in IQ, obviously, there's no doubt that there's research to support that there's variations across IQ in the population, but
Mm-hmm.
I would say majority of people can definitely learn to code. So learning to code is really not it's not a thing of IQ per se, even though IQ does play a significant role, but it's something that has to do with consistency. So that means I can have a high IQ and still be bad at coding just because I haven't put in the time. So it's more the greater
Right.
variable there is the conscientiousness and the time. So if you put in, say, 5 hours every day and you do that across a whole year, I can tell you for sure that you'll be proficient in a certain programming language or a certain web framework or whatever you're focusing on. So it's just, can you consistently set out time to code? Are you following the right processes? Do you have someone that's leading the way, that's guiding you? That's the role of mentorship, because there's so many things you could be learning, and I've seen people just get down into the weeds about stuff and they just make no progress over years and years. So having a clear roadmap that's designed by someone who knows the ropes is really, really helpful.
So for me to know how to code, I definitely need a mentor.
It's advisable that you have a mentor. I mean, when I
Advisable.
started, I
Right.
didn't have anyone guiding me. So I was just like playing around with stuff. I'll see a
Okay.
tutorial here. Oh, I'm really excited now. I take that tutorial and I learn whatever they're teaching there, and then you just see that you're learning one skill here, learning another here. You don't have a roadmap for, here's the career path I'm taking, these are the skills required. Then
Mm.
on a more granular level, these are the tutorials I should be taking, these are the certifications I should be sitting for. So it's basically focus on the bigger picture, and nested within that is like, what should you be learning, who should you be connecting with on LinkedIn, what sort of articles and books should you be reading. So yeah.
Okay. Right. Well, finally, just before you go, we want to steal more from you, so personal tips for people coming from third world countries, not necessarily Nigeria, Africa, India, Pakistan, coming to the UK, to the US, to Canada, and want to be a data analyst or, be a data engineer, the big ones, right? What tips do you have for any of them?
So there's lots of tips I could be giving, but I would say if there's anything you should keep behind your mind when moving to attend such a role would be
Mm.
practice a lot. Right? Practice a lot would be the first
Okay.
piece of advice I would give. So practicing being not just in isolation, right? Practice to know the skills, right? In the way that they are done in industry. So I'll give an example. So for data analysis, you know that most often you would be extracting data from some sources using things like SQL, which is why you have to do your research. What's required, how a company is doing this. So you're extracting data and you're building visualizations, let's say, to do the analysis. Maybe that's in a framework such as Power BI, which is a visualization and BI tool.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you should be doing tasks and side projects that help you build that competency. Because with coding, you can easily lose your proficiency in a matter of months, I would say, if you're not coding consistently. So try to just have a routine around how you code, right? You should have at least a weekly routine. You might not be coding every day, but at least every other day or every 3 days, something like this. At least weekly, have some times you set out to work on projects. So also, I'd also say try to connect with people. And now I'm talking from like an opportunist kind of perspective. So you want to be able to network with people who can help you. Because for looking for jobs, I would say one of the biggest assets you have is the people you know, right? Just for referrals, for people to just tell you what you're doing wrong, all sorts of things. So what I do is go for meetups and all sorts of tech events where you can meet with people, connect. It's really valuable, more valuable than most people think. Just don't be isolated. In the tech industry, those who are isolated, you might have the skills, but trust me, you wouldn't get the opportunities that you should be getting given your skills and proficiency. So two things I've said now, just to recap: networking, practicing a lot, and also one more thing. Just know, because I know many people coming from third world countries, you might have limited resources. This is definitely something I faced. So don't be discouraged at all. Don't be discouraged by not having money to pay for courses. Again, with these things, you should talk to those who really know the ropes. I can tell you for free that you can learn lots of these things with at no cost, right? There's YouTube. YouTube is increasingly very, very popular for free courses that are really good. I must tell you, I take some of them myself. So you don't need to go to a structured program or have a structured course like Udacity, which costs thousands of dollars. So what you should be doing is knowing the skills you want to learn and then knowing specific platforms that give you those free courses and materials. And if you do that coupled with practicing, very important, practicing on the side while you watch the tutorial, be practicing, right? Even if just you're going head first into the problem, it's really hard to solve. People are online who have done it. Just have the problem open, have the coding editor open. Keep researching, keep doing the project, and one day you complete the project. But trust me, if you have your gaze on what you're trying to achieve and you network with people, you find out all the information that'll be useful to you, you'll be able to make it for sure.
Wow, thank you so much. Thank you. Me personally, I've learned a lot in this session because this every other person I've brought in, I understand what they do, but when it comes to data science, that's some a part where I struggle with, and I always wanted to know if it was very easy to code because sometimes I work as an agile coach, right? And then um, when developers give you certain excuses, I'm upset, not upset, but I'm like, I wish I could do this. So I want to know the excuse. Why you estimating this work to be 8 story points? This thing should be like 3 story points, but because I don't know how to do it, yeah, giving me one or two. But then again, maybe I will gotta learn it. I'll gotta learn coding, and then I'll be able to
Is that
counter them
just
that hey,
it?
no, I do this thing.
Yeah, that's a good reason to learn coding.
Yeah, I mean, because we need to be customer focused, right?
Mhm.
The main thing is about delivering value quickly to your customers,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
And so if I want to really get that, then I have to do whatever it takes.
Hmm. I agree. I agree.
All right.
Awesome.
All right then. Thank you so much.
Nice
Thank you
talking to you.
for
Thanks for having
taking
me.
out time out of your busy
Mhm.
schedule. Thank you for joining us.
My
And
pleasure.
all right then.
My pleasure.
All right.
Thanks for
Thank you,
having me.
everyone.
Okay. All right. Take
All
care.
right then.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.